everyone, Assalamualaikum and welcome to our video, and we hope you are in a good health. So we are from group 3. We will present about legal aspect of halal food product. So let's start. So before we start, let me introduce the presenter for this video. So the first one is Muhammad Hafiz, second Ili Najrah, third Dayang Nur Hazwani, and lastly Nurul Nazratul Akmal. So what we will discuss in this video is introduction, history, acts related to halal food product, regulatory bodies, current issue, and lastly conclusion.
Okay, what is halal? Halal is an Arabic term that translates as permitted and lawful. It encompasses not only consumption but also all acts, while haram refers to what is forbidden and illegal according to Sharia law. In Surah Al-A'raf verse 157 makes a clear distinction between halal and haram, meaning those who follow the messenger, the unlettered prophet, whom they find written in what they have of the Torah and the Gospel, who enjoins upon them what is right and forbids them what is wrong, and makes lawful for them the good things and prohibits for them the evil, and relieves them of their burden and the shackles which were upon them. So they will have believed in him, honored him, supported him, and followed the light which was sent down with him. It is those who will be the successful. Human conduct has been led by religious responsibility. However, in Islam, every Muslim behaves in accordance with the Quran and the Sunnah in every part of their life. Halal is very important in all parts of a Muslim life, especially when it comes to food intake and dietary requirements. Next is halal legal. Legislations governing halal manufacturing is critical, as non-Muslim firms make food for sale as well. Along with safeguarding customers, this regulation is intended to guarantee that halal food manufacturers adhere to their moral commitments to conduct business fairly, honestly, transparently, and in a consumer-friendly manner. Additionally, the existence of regulations pertaining to halal food or halal goods will indirectly enhance the sale of halal food in both domestic and international markets. The act will serve as a guide for all food producers, either Muslims or non-Muslim. So today our group will be presenting to you guys about the relevant halal laws in Malaysia. This includes Food Act 1983, Trademark 1976, Food Hygiene Regulation, Trade Descriptions 2011, Custom Law, in Animal Importations Order 1962, and Local Government Act 976, and MS 1500 2019.
Would like to share about the history related act for halal. So we move to the first act, that is Trade Description Act 2011. This law was in existence since 1972 when it was first introduced and enforced. There were two regulations made under this act, namely the Trade Description Use of Expression Halal Order 1975 and the Trade Description Marking of Good Order 1975. Before KPDHCP, it was formerly known as the Ministry of Domestic and Consumer Affairs. KPDHCP is one of the agencies that play a main role if there is an event of misuse of halal food. Next, we move to Food Act 1983. The Food Act 1983 and the Food Regulation 1985 are the Malaysian food legislation that form the backbone of the food safety program. This legislation replaced the Sale of Food and Drug Ordinance and Regulation 1952. The act is to monitor food labeling, hygiene, food safety. They ensure that food does not contain substances harmful to health and fit for human consumption. This act empowers by Ministry of Health. Next, we move to Food Hygiene Regulation 2009. The implementation began in 1983 based on Food Hygiene Code of Practice 1974, the Code General Principle of Food Hygiene Regulation, and regulation that is hygiene rules for food of an animal origin under the section under Food Act 1983. Food Hygiene Regulation 2009 prescribed matters related to food hygiene, including food premise, use in the preparation, preservation, packaging, storage, and others. The Act is empowered by Ministry of Health, that is MOH. Lastly, the Animal Act 1983. This Act, together with the Abattoir Privatization Act 1993 and its regulation, empowers the Ministry of Health and the Department of Veterinary Service of the Ministry of Agriculture and Agro-Based Industry. That is, what is the purpose here? To control the slaughter of animals. The protocol gives clear guidance in the production of halal meat and poultry, as well as halal certificate application process for imported meat. The Act is empowered by Ministry of Health, that is MOH, and the Department of the Veterinary Service (VVS) of the Ministry of Agriculture and Agro-Based Industry.
List of halal related Malaysian standard. So based on our finding, we found that there is about 15 and more Malaysian related standard that related to halal. So in this video, we will discuss about 9 acts and standard that related to halal.
For the act that related with the halal matter, that is first, Trademark Act 1976. What is Trademark Act 1976? It's an act to make a better provision in the law relating to trademark and for other matters connect the halal logo on consumer product is a trademark. Trademark is an item under Class E of Item 8 which includes patent, design, invention, trademark and copyright. Jakim, as the owner of the halal trademark and register the logo under the Trademark Act 1976. Next, we move to Food Act 1983. Food Act 1983 and regulations such as the Food Regulation 1985 and Food Hygiene Regulation 2009 serve as legislation that protect consumer by ensuring that any food supply cannot contain elements that are harmful to health, either in terms of food preparation, sale and consumption. The example is under the section 13 bracket number 1, there is a prohibition on the supply or sale of hazardous food. And other than that, in the section 16, there is a restriction to the preparation, packaging, labeling and sale of any food that is incorrect, misleading or contain element of fraud in terms of its character, value, content, quality, safety and others.
One of the requirements for food premises under the Food Hygiene Regulation 2009 is Cleanliness of Food Premises Regulation 15. Firstly, food premises must be kept in a good, clean and tidy conditions at all times. Secondly, to prevent pest entry and harborage, food premise must be free of any collections of boxes, tins, empty bottle, trash or any other item unrelated to the food premise. Thirdly, cleaning of food premises should be done at least once a day and should include the removal of food residues and filth as needed. The purpose of this regulation is to guarantee that food establishments are sanitary and that their design and construction meet minimum standard. In order to comply with the necessity of mandated food safety assurance programs such as HACCP and GMP in food plants, legislation has been enacted. Food Hygiene Regulations 2009 implementation is critical to ensuring that food establishments are clean and hygienic. Next is the Trade Descriptions Act 2011 aims to promote good trade practices by prohibiting false trade descriptions as well as false and misleading statements, conducts and practices in relation to the supply of goods and services, thereby safeguarding the interests of customers. According to Article 3 of the Trade Descriptions Definitions of Halal Order 2011, when food or goods are described as halal or in other expressions indicating that they can be consumed or used by a Muslim, such expressions means that the food or goods, firstly, are not made from or consist of or contain of any part or matter of an animal that is prohibited for consumption by a Muslim under Hukum Syara or that has not been slaughtered in accordance with Hukum Syara. Secondly, is devoid of everything unclean according to Hukum Syara. A food product that is free of contaminations and healthy as specified by Islamic law is clearly referred to as halal food in this definition. Next is the Trade Description, Certifications and Marking of Halal Order 2011. According to the Article 4 of these legislations, only Jakim and Ma'in in the respective states have been designated as competent authorities to certify that any food, goods or services in connections with the food or goods are halal in accordance with the Trade Descriptions, Definitions of Halal Order 2011. All food, commodities and services should not be labeled as halal unless they are certified as halal by the competent authority such as Jakim and Ma'in and they're labeled with the competent authority's unique logo.
Next is Custom Prohibition of Import Order 1998. This order enacted by the government regarding the import of halal meat by the Royal Malaysian Custom. The purpose of this order, exportation to a destination, shall include exportation to a free commercial zone. For your information, this order has 12 sections. This order provides a control over the import of milk and milk product, poultry, fat, lard, pig fat, and others. This order requires that all meat and livestock imported into Malaysia to be halal. One of the element or item under this order is item number 4, which are any animal or birds or other than domestic fowls, whether alive or dead, or any part thereof, including all animal, any birds specified in any written law in Malaysia. Manner of export that need to be taken is that the import is accompanied by an import permit must issued by the Wildlife Department under the Protection of Wildlife Act 1972, together with import permit from the Department of Veterinary Service under Animal Ordinance 1953. Okay, the next one is Animal Importation Order 1962. This order enacted by the Minister of Agriculture. It is regarding animal rearing and disease control by the DVS. It is relating to landing place, the animal and birds to this order be imported into the federation from the countries or part of the country. It is a requirement that all meat and livestock must be halal, safe and disease-free. For your information, this order enforced by the DVS and the Custom and Excise Department at entry point in Malaysia. For example, is order from cattle that imported from South Thailand, and the purpose of is for slaughtering. Based on this order, the animal imported must issue a health certification by veterinary officer by Thailand. The animal must be free from disease at the time of export, free from reader pests and foot, mouth and disease, and etc.
Next is Local Government Act 1976. This act is a Malaysian law enacted by the government for the purpose of examining and unifying legislation relating to the local government. It is divided into 16 parts of varying sort. For your information, the local authorities have a power over the food premises cleanliness under this act, which is the Local Government Act 1976, and the local authorities by law such as the Food Premise Regulation, Licensing and Advertising. In today's discussion, we only covers on the part of the food, market, sanitation, and necessities. In the part it is clearly indicate a variety of hygiene-related topic that must be adhered to in order to maintain the safety of the food produced. For example, in the Clause 72(1)(a), it's mentioned it is to maintain, build, and operate such sanitary service for effluent disposal. The advantage of having this act is the local authorities can help to promote the varieties of halal product, which should include the health aspect, hygiene, safety, nourishing, and also the quality. This is because the halal food is not only prioritized on the halal status itself, but it is also emphasizes the aspect of the cleanliness and purity. Now we move to the Malaysian standard. A standard is a written document that have been approved by the recognized body, such as the Malaysian Department of the Standard. Standard provide a certain rules, guideline, characteristic for the related product or the processes, as well as the manufacturing method. For the halal food, the standard that we can refer is MS 1500-2019 Halal Food General Requirement. This standard provide us a complete requirements and encompasses all of the criteria in order to ensure that the predetermined of the halal food standards are met. For example, in the Clause 3.1a, it's mentioned that the food must not consist of or contain any part of the matters of animals that is prohibited by the Sharia law and fatwa for the Muslim to consume it, or the animal that has not been slaughtered in accordance to the Sharia law and fatwa. Okay, the benefit of having this standard is the organization have the opportunity to expand their business, which gain the highest market share in the food sector. This is because the Malaysian halal logo is widely used, widely accepted in other Islamic countries, as well as being a great demand among the non-Muslim itself.
Organization to support halal implementation program. So based on our finding and research, we found that there is 14 organization that related to halal enforcement. So in this video, we will highlight only 4 organizations that related to halal implementation.
The regulatory body for halal certification in Malaysia is known as JAKIM, the Halal Department Division under the Department of Islamic Development Malaysia. JAKIM is responsible for halal certification, which includes developing the halal logo, monitoring and enforcing halal guidelines and Sharia principle. JAKIM has also developed and designed its own halal manual system for applying for, auditing and monitoring halal certification, and has become one of the government bodies that are subjected to monitoring and taking enforcement action, which is divided into two categories. First, local food products and services, export and import of products from the global market, and secondly, export and import of products from the local market.
Next is KPD and HEP, or known as Ministry of Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs. This ministry is really important and plays a main role in implementing halal enforcement. It is responsible for the enforcement of laws and monitoring program relating to halal food production. Thus, offence or non-compliance to laws related to halal, such as failures to label the food as halal as required under the Trade Description Act 2011. Under KPD and HEP, acts related to KPD and HEP are: first, Trade Description, Use of Expression Halal Order 1975. Second, Trade Description Halal Labelling Order 1975. Third, Trade Description Definition of Halal Order 2011. Fourth, Trade Description Certification and Marking of Halal Order 2011. And lastly, Trade Description Certification and Marking of Halal Feast Regulation 2011.
Okay, now is the Ministry of Health. MOH is a major contribution to the development in promoting the halal food that is safe to be consumed by the community, especially Muslim consumer. Besides, MOH also responsible for ensuring the safety of each of the product, not only the food itself, but also include the other products such as supplement, medicine, cosmetic, and vice versa. They are also responsible in ensuring the food hygiene, personal hygiene, cleanliness of the premise by providing a guideline to achieve the required level. Somehow, in some case, JAKIM shall rely to the MOH. It is because the Ministry of Health is legally empowered to help in the initiations of the halal enforcement operation. For example, in the matters of the food hygiene and safety characteristic.
So the regulatory bodies that may involve in the processing of halal food, that is Department of Veterinary Service. What is the Department of Veterinary Service? That is also known as Jabatan Perkhidmatan Haiwan GPS in Malaysia. The Department of Jatim are to prevent and control animal and zoonotic disease. So the function of Department Veterinary Service that is to control and prevent animal-related disease. Second, controlling animal welfare and conservation of animal genetic material. Third, inspection of meat, milk, eggs, animal feed, slaughterhouse and processing of animal waste product. Lastly, import and export control of livestock and animal product and quarantine service.
Current issues that are related to halal food product is the use of fake halal logos. The use of fake halal logos by unethical parties is a very common problem in Malaysia. According to Cosmo Media article, the Ministry of Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs (KPD and HEP) raided a chocolate biscuit packaging company that had used a fake halal logo and had violated consumer safety regulations. The factory allegedly used a fake halal trade name and also a fake Malaysian conformity mark to sell its product. Not only that, but the authorities also investigated the matter and found the company did not obtain a valid JAKIM halal certification. According to the issue, the company has violated Order 4, first of the Trade Descriptions, Halal Certification and Marking Order 2011, which prohibit the use of the halal logo in trade descriptions. Furthermore, pursuant to Order 8B of the Trade Descriptions, Halal Certification and Marking Order, which carries a maximum fine of 100,000 ringgit or imprisonment for a term not exceeding 3 years, and for every second or subsequent offence, and for a maximum sentence of 250,000 ringgit or with imprisonment for a term not exceeding 5 years or what.
Okay, the next issue is about hygiene in food premise. According to a Cosmo Media article in 21st October 2021, tofu factory operators in Kampung Selamat, Tasik Gelugu and another belacan producing premise in Butterworth were instructed to close down food processing operation. The premise is believed to have the first one is the rats feces were found scattered in the food store. Second, the condition of the tofu factory is also dirty with excess tofu littered on the floor and around the food production machine. Third, the belacan that was dried for processing is believed to have also been trampled by the worker there. Fourth, the equipment used is so dirty. Fifth, operator for more than 5 years without having a valid business license. 6, 8 to 9 workers in the two factories have not received typhoid injection. 7, workers do not wear gloves and headgear. And another offence other than cleanliness at the premise are, the first one is use double halal logos, and second, believed to be hiding behind another factory, which is an agar wood processing factory. So based on this case, the authority bodies has do an enforcement toward this premise, which are the action under the section 11 closure of insanitary premise Food Act 1983 was taken, which is the premise were ordered to closure with not exceeding 14 days, and if the owner of the premise fails to comply with the order, commits an offence and is liable on conviction to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 5 years or to fine or to both. In total, the authorities have issued 7 compound notice worth 12,000 ringgit for various offences related to cleanliness on the premise. Also compounded individually for the offence of an employee who did not have typhoid injection.
The issue that is about meat cartel that happened on the 2020 last year, that is at the end of 2020, Malaysia was shocked by the news of the arrest of 1,500 tons of illegal meat cartel smuggling syndicate from 4 foreign countries, that is from China, Ukraine, Brazil and Argentina. The Ministry of Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs (KPDNCP) has denied that no big horse or kangaroos were discovered during the raid. However, the statement and misunderstanding between media reports and the government agencies have caused concern among Malaysian Muslim consumers. So, the enforcement that happened for this case is, according to Minister of Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs, Dato Sri Alexander Nataligi, the companies involved are being investigated under the paragraph 8. This description, there is Certification and Halal Market Order 2011 and Section 5 of the Trade Description Act 2011. That is Matter 5, that is, what is Matter 5? Matter 5 is Halal Personal Certification for Food and Imported Goods. All imported food and goods marketed in Malaysia cannot be described as halal unless the imported food and goods comply with the requirement of paragraph 4 or are certified as the halal by a foreign halal certification body recognized by JAKIM. So the fine is, if the party is from the corporate body, the fine not exceeding 200,000 ringgit. If the party is not from corporate body, the fine not exceeding 100,000 ringgit or imprisonment not exceeding 3 years or both. For second subsequent offence, to a fine not exceeding 250,000 ringgit or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 5 years or both.
The last issues is the food rider services. These issues arise due to the controversy about the food rider who required to deliver the non-halal food. According to the Perlis Fatwa community, the food rider's work is permitted and allowed by the Sharia as long as it does not consist any prohibited activities. As the conclusions about the fatwa, if the food provided is clearly and known to have come from the unlawful sources, then the ruling is prohibited to deliver or to send the foods either to the Muslim consumer or non-Muslim consumer. However, if there is unavoidable element which can bring harm to the individual, which is to the riders, then it is permitted to use the Hanafi school judgment. The Hanafi school permitted to deliver the food, the non-halal food, if the food is for non-Muslim consumer and the Muslim riders are not directly involved in the food production. Okay. Lastly, if the status of the food is unclear, which is the rider don't know what the food is, either from the halal sources or non-halal, then the rulings is forgiven. Okay, referring to this problem, the director of the Food Panda have come out to speak about the issues. Then he stated that the Food Panda account system has divided into two categories, which is receive an order for halal food only or receive order for non-halal food. So from the statement, it can be concluded that it is turning back to the employee itself, which is to the rider itself, either he want to choose to collect the halal food or otherwise. For this issue, there is still no further actions or enforcements applicable for the matter if the person is convicted to the certain offences. But currently, the Ministry of Transport has released a guidelines of food delivery service and parcel using a motorcycle. However, personally, I think the guidelines should be revised to include the halal aspect in this service or in this guideline so that we can protect in terms of the halal aspect itself. Now, we're at the very last part, which is the conclusion. Malaysia is a country with a multiracial society and religion, with Islam as the country's official religion. So, the matters related to the halal food should be emphasized. Malaysia has enacted a comprehensive law which is an effort to regulate all aspects of the halal food management. As a result, the effectiveness and the successful implementations of the Malaysian laws requires due to the cooperations on the part of the authorities. Otherwise, a various form of the concern with the manipulation of the halal legislation will increase. So that's all from us. Thank you for watching.